cricket captain in short order after Kieran Pollard announced his retirement from international cricket. Pollard, in a video message on Instagram, said his decision came after careful deliberation. In-year currency trading to date was costing $155.60 for $1. The British pound sterling for $203 and the Canadian dollar for $123.66.
That was the Caribbean News and Sport on GFM 96.6 FM and online at gloucesterfm.com.
96.6 GFM and online gloucesterfm.com.
I'm tired of feeling so broken. I'm tired of falling in love.
Welcome along to the Young People Show on Gloucester FM. We're going to kick things off straight away with the track. This is Jax Jones featuring Ray, You Don't Know Me.
Ooh, nah, nah, yeah. Don't act like you know me, nah, nah, yeah. I am not your homie, not your home. Ooh, nah, nah, yeah. Don't act like you know me, nah, nah, yeah. You don't know me. What you gonna do? Yeah. Time is money, so don't put my mind. Seeing out with my girls, I'ma have a good time. Step back with your chit chat, calling my vibe. See, you can't get too much of a good thing. Swap me dressed up in the finest things. Well, please hold your tongue, don't say a thing. See your iPhone camera flashing. Please step back, it's my style, you're cramping. You here for long, oh no, I'm just passing. Do you wanna drink? Nah, thanks for asking. Ooh, nah, nah, yeah. Don't act like you know me, nah, nah, yeah. I am not your homie, not your home. Ooh, nah, nah, yeah. Don't act like you know me, nah, nah, yeah. You don't know me, yeah. Ooh, nah, nah, yeah. Don't act like you know me, nah, nah, yeah. I am not your homie, not your home. Ooh, nah, nah, yeah. Don't act like you know me, nah, nah, yeah. You don't know me, yeah. I mean, we can throw shapes together, but it doesn't mean you're in my circle. Yeah. Cruise through life and I'm feeling on track. If you can't keep up, then you better fall back. Cause money look better when I see it all stacked up. Ooh, ooh, ooh. See, you can't get too much of a good thing. Swam here dressed up in the finest things. Well, please hold your tongue, don't say a thing. See your iPhone camera flashing. Please step back, it's my style, you're cramping. You here for long, oh no, I'm just passing. Do you wanna drink? Nah, thanks for asking. Ooh, nah, nah, yeah. Don't act like you know me, nah, nah, yeah. I am not your homie, not your home. Ooh, nah, nah, yeah. Don't act like you know me, nah, nah, yeah. You don't know me, yeah. Ooh, nah, nah, yeah. Don't act like you know me, nah, nah, yeah. I am not your homie, not your home. Ooh, nah, nah, yeah. Don't act like you know me, nah, nah, yeah. You don't know me, yeah. Just slow down. I'll get what you want, want to you what you don't know. I get what I want. See your iPhone camera flashing. Please step back, it's my style, you're cramping. You here for long, oh no, I'm just passing. Do you wanna drink? Nah, thanks for asking. Ooh, nah, nah, yeah. Don't act like you know me, nah, nah, yeah. I am not your homie, not your home. Ooh, nah, nah, yeah. Don't act like you know me, nah, nah, yeah. You don't know me, yeah. You don't know me, yeah.
So welcome along to your Thursday evening, hosted by the Future Me Gloucestershire team on the GFM Youth Hour. It's really great to be back for another week presenting in April. I can't believe how quickly the month's flying by. Are you on your Easter break? If you are, I hope you're enjoying it. If you want to shout out or you want to let me know how your holiday's going, you can always email me in on 60066 or that's text, and then email studio@gloucesterfm.com, starting your message with GFM. We're going to have another track in just a minute, but before we do, I'm just going to introduce what the topic for today is. We've got a really exciting interview coming up with Hope House Clinics, which is an excellent service that all young people should be aware of. So Hope House is a sexual health clinic, and they're actually all across Gloucestershire as a county. So do stay tuned for Olivia's conversation with the team from Hope House coming up really soon. Before we play that interview, I've got another track for you. This is Swim Good by Frank Ocean.
That's a pretty big trunk on my Lincoln Town car, ain't it? Big enough to take these broken hearts and put them in it. Now I'm driving round on the boulevard, trunk bleeding. And every time the cops pull me over, they don't never see them. They never see them. And I got this black suit on, roaming around like I'm ready for a funeral. 5 more miles till the road runs out. I'm about to drive in the ocean. I'ma try to swim from something bigger than me. Kick off my shoes and swim good, and swim good. Take off this suit and swim good, and swim good. Yeah. Got some pretty good beats on this 808 CD. Memory seats I'm sitting on, stay heated. I wanna put tents on my windows, but what's the difference? If I feel like a ghost, no twice. Ever since I lost my baby, I've had this black suit on, rolling around like I'm ready for a funeral. 1 more mile till the road runs out. I'm about to drive in the ocean. I'ma try to swim from something bigger than me. Kick off my shoes and swim good, and swim good. Take off this suit and swim good, and swim good. I'm going up. Don't try stopping me. I'm going up. Don't try saving me. Don't flare. No fear. And no fear. Waves washing me out. I'm about to drive in the ocean. I'ma try to swim from something bigger than me. Kick off my shoes. Swim good. Take off this suit. Swim good. Swim
So, as I just said before that track, in today's show, we're going to be sharing some really informative and helpful advice in the form of an interview with you that one of our youth reps, Olivia, did just a few weeks ago when she spoke to a member of the team from the Hope House clinics. So if you aren't aware, Hope House is a sexual health service for Gloucestershire, and their main clinics are at the Hope House Centre in Gloucester and also the Milsom Centre in Cheltenham. But they do also have satellite clinics in each of the districts throughout the county, so you'll not be far away from one of them. Their services are free and available to anyone who needs them. So without further ado, I'm going to play the first half of the interview when Olivia caught up with one of the members from Hope House, Rachel McKenna.
Foundation Trust. We're going to be discussing a bit about sexual health, especially amongst young people.
Hi Olivia, my name's Rachel McKenna and I'm a psychosexual therapist working at Hope House Integrated Sexual Health Services, and my job is working with people that have sexual difficulty, but previous to that I was a sexual health and contraception nurse and health advisor for many years within the sexual health services. So it's great to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
No, thank you for letting me talk to you. So would you just please quickly be able to explain what sexual health is and why it's important to understand and take care of your own sexual health?
Absolutely. So sexual health is all about being human. Actually, it's an important part of being a human being. And sexual health is interesting because a lot of the time we're only ever taught about the physical aspects of sex and the risks associated. For example, maybe taught how to put a condom on to prevent a sexually transmitted infection. And not much of what we're taught is about the importance of the actual relationship between people. So it's very, very important to recognise that if the relationship is healthy, it's respectful, it's consensual, and there's honesty, trust and openness, then the sex part will actually look after itself and it will be really good. Okay. And the other thing that's really interesting to recognise is that often the only place that young people, old people, any age actually can go to learn about sex is using the internet or porn websites, for instance. And this only ever really shows the physical act of sexual intercourse, but not actually how to have an intimate and caring relationship with another person. Nor does it focus on pleasure and actually being ready for sex. Okay. The result can be that the sex isn't remotely what you imagined or expected. And sexual intimacy and pleasure, free from pain, infection, unplanned pregnancy, whilst being able to express your sexuality and be fully consensual are the guiding kind of principles of sexual health. So the World Health Organization came up with a really good definition. I mean, it was a long time ago, but it's still relevant today. And they say that sexual health is the possibility of having pleasurable and safe sexual experiences, free of coercion, discrimination and violence. So I think that sums it up really well.
Super. So when do you think it would be a good idea to go to a sexual health clinic such as Hope House?
Okay, yeah. So Hope House works really hard to ensure that every aspect of sexual health is cared for, physically and emotionally. So Hope House is a specialised confidential service that cares for people of all ages who have concerns about a range of issues related to sexual or reproductive health. Okay. We provide emergency contraception, for instance, to women of any age. And, people should come to us if they're worried about having an infection or they want to discuss a method of contraception, or, to have a simple sexual health screen if they've got a new partner or something. And also, you don't actually always need to come into the building. You can access the online testing from the Hope House website, which is www.hopehouse.nhs.uk. So it's really, really easy to access. So we provide contraception to women under 25 years of age. We also care for people living with HIV and those people that are worried about having or need treatment for a sexually transmitted infection. We've also got a pregnancy advisory service which provides advice and support for women who've become pregnant and are considering having an abortion. And my department that I work in is psychosexual department, which helps people who are having difficulty with having sex. And then last but not least, we've got the Hope House Sexual Assault Referral Centre, or the SARC. And this department offers emotional and practical support, as well as medical care for anyone who's experienced sexual violence or sexual abuse. So Hope House is a really good place for anybody that, you know, has concerns, worries, you know, and just wants to access a specialised service to sort out their sexual health and contraception. Okay.
That's absolutely amazing. So how do Hope House differ from a GP, and how would you be able to make an appointment to go there?
Okay, so to make an appointment, you ring 0300 421 6500, and our telephone number is on our website. Okay, so consultations usually start with a telephone call, so the triage nurse or doctor can understand exactly what sort of care you might need, and then they can arrange the various type of appointment that you need. So that might be a follow-up telephone call, it might be a face-to-face appointment in person at Hope House, or one of our other clinics like at Cheltenham, or it might be that you have a video consultation. So, you know, we do all those types of appointments. As I said before, there's also the online service for sexually transmitted infection testing. Okay, so we're a specialist service in genitourinary and contraceptive care, and all of our team are really highly trained in all aspects of sexual and contraceptive health, whereas your GP is highly trained to look after the whole of your general health needs, not just specifically contraception. So they're general practitioners, which means that they are very skilled at what they do, whereas we focus in, you know, especially on sexual and reproductive health. Okay. Now, the other thing that's really helpful to know is that we are a standalone service. So we work independently away from GP practices and hospital trusts, etc. So that means that when you register or make an appointment, you're allocated your own unique identity code. And that means that if you have any tests done in the clinic, for instance, it's only your identity number and your date of birth that's actually contained on the samples. So people that are working in the laboratory would never know that, you know, a certain person has turned up to have a sexual health screen, for instance. So lots of people find this level of confidentiality is really helpful when dealing with sexual health concerns, because, you know, it is an intimate topic, and lots of people find it quite embarrassing. Okay, we're not embarrassed. We're very sensitive to people's needs, and we totally understand, you know, how awkward and difficult it can be sometimes to come and talk about your sexual health. So the website, which is www.hopehouse.nhs.uk, is really good, and there's a lot of really helpful information and also contact details there. So, you know, go and have a look, because you'll learn all sorts of things about contraception and STIs.
Stay tuned for more conversation with Rachel McKenna from the NHS Foundation Trust right after this. Lauren Wooler got me.
This morning with your touch on my mind, your kisses take me on some heavenly ride. Go with me, go with you, no limit now. I don't regret nothing with you, I belong. Do what you wanna, say what you wanna, taking control of me, don't make it too easy for me. Do what you wanna, say what you wanna, taking control of me, don't make it too easy for me.
Consent, pleasure, and safety are all very important things in a sexual relationship. What advice do you have for young people who want to have a conversation about sex with a current or prospective partner? And how can someone ensure that they are emotionally and physically safe?
Okay. Talking about sex can often feel really awkward and embarrassing, whatever age you are. And the chances are that your partner is actually feeling exactly the same. In terms of consent and safety, being honest with yourself is a really good place to start. Really thinking about what you want to do, and most importantly, what you don't want to do. So, you know, being able to decide what you feel happy to consent to. And consent is not just about saying no, but also feeling able to say an enthusiastic yes. Okay. Taking the plunge to talk to your partner about what you feel ready to do is also a good way to keep yourself emotionally and physically safe. Sometimes rushing into being sexually intimate too quickly can lead to feelings of anxiety, distress, and being quite overwhelmed. And talking about what you want to do sexually before you actually do anything also allows time to arrange contraception, for example, and maybe get some free condoms from the distribution scheme or from Hope House so that you're ready and prepared, you know, so that you don't have the added anxiety about unplanned pregnancy.
We're just going to have a quick chat now about contraception. So, in really basic, easy to understand terms, what is contraception?
Okay, so contraception is a safe and effective way of preventing an unplanned pregnancy. So if you think of the word conception, that means the start of a pregnancy. Okay, so if you add contra at the beginning of that word, and that gives you contraception, that means the prevention or the opposite of conception. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, it feels like I'm in an English class, like taking all the words apart. So how does anyone, male or female, figure out what contraception is right for them? And are there certain forms better for certain scenarios?
So there's lots and lots of different types of contraception, and finding the one that suits you the best might mean that you have to swap and change around to begin with. Okay, I always think getting contraception is a bit like shoe shopping, really. You have to try on a few pairs until you find something that really fits. Yeah. So there's a whole range. As I said, you can have a pill that you swallow every day. There's also long-acting methods, which once they're put in, they can last anywhere from 12 weeks up to about 8 to 10 years. So, for example, the intrauterine copper contraception is put into the womb. So that's, your womb is where a baby would grow if you were pregnant. Okay. And the copper coil can last anywhere from 8 to 10 years. But there's also other intrauterine systems which can last from 3 to 5 years. You can have an implant that's inserted just under the skin of your upper arm. That lasts for about 3 years. And there's also an injection that can last up to 12 weeks. So lots and lots of different methods of contraception. And as I said, sometimes you have to switch around until you find something that you're really, really happy with. Mm. But the good thing is that the nurse or doctor or pharmacist that you speak to will be able to discuss your particular health and your options with you. So ultimately, it's your choice, and you decide on what is best for you and what will keep you safe.
That's great. So who should be involved in deciding what form of contraception is taken?
Yeah, good question, actually. So contraception is your choice, nobody else's. Your partner, your friends, your parents, your care or support workers, they can give you their advice, they can give you their opinion, but they're not you. They cannot decide for you. So once you've discussed your options, you decide.
That's great. So can somebody's medication that they're on or disability get in the way of contraception being effective or close some certain doors which would normally be available to someone who doesn't have any of these regarding contraception?
So when your health professional discusses your options with you, they will assess any medication that might be causing you problems and then work out with you what available methods there are as an alternative. Okay. Sometimes disability, physical or learning disability, might mean that you need extra time to make the right choice. So Hope House is exactly the right place for you to support you. Okay. And we actually are very specialised at dealing with complicated. So lives for people are complicated and complex, and we've got some, a fabulous team of vulnerable access nurses who work with very, very vulnerable people, and we do a lot of work with under 25. So we're very specialised at dealing with assessing young people in a very safe and confidential way. So if there are disabilities or vulnerabilities, then Hope House is exactly the right place to support you.
If somebody thinks that their contraception has failed or it isn't working, or it just isn't suiting them, what should they do?
Okay, so if you've had sex and you realise that your contraception has failed, or maybe you forgot to take it or use a condom, for instance, then get in touch with Hope House or a local pharmacy and ask for emergency contraception. In most cases, you've got a few days after unprotected sex to get the emergency contraception tablet or an emergency contraception coil fitted. But the sooner you get in touch, the better. Okay. And Hope House support women of any age in accessing emergency contraception. So ring in triage on 0300 421 6500, and talking to one of the team is really, really supportive in actually making sure you get the right advice and, within the timescales available, and then you'll get it sorted.
That's great. So thank you so much. I really hope everyone has enjoyed listening to this interview. It's been really interesting, enticing, and I really hope this has widened your perspectives. And would you just quickly be able to say the name of the website again for everyone at home?
So it's www.hopehouse.nhs.uk.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And that was the second part of our interview with the brilliant Rachel McKenna, who I'm sure you will agree spoke so clearly and confidently to us as young people about sexual health services in Gloucestershire. So do have a Google of Hope House in Gloucestershire, which is part of the Gloucestershire Health and Care NHS Foundation Trust. We'll be carrying on a bit more on this important topic right after this, which is St John's Roses. So, as part of this show talking about sexual health, it's really important that we all make sure that we aren't afraid to talk about the topic. And for anyone listening who wants to hear from any other young people, this is the opportunity, because I'm really pleased that some of the Future Me Youth reps have joined me to talk about sexual health in a really kind of broad and easy to access kind of way. So with that in mind, thanks for joining me, Beth, Olivia and Morgan. We all probably got some sort of sex education at school. I think that's kind of like the baseline starting point for understanding how much people understand about sexual health. So did you all get a bit of sex ed at school?
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, I've had the sex education at school. I can't remember which year it was, but I remember that there was a degree of sex education at school.
Yeah.
Mine was about year 9 or year 10ish.
Mine started a bit earlier. I remember first sex education class was in year 5, and we had it yearly, year 5, year 6. Secondary school, you had one in year 7 and year 8.
Oh,
so
gosh.
they did it as like yearly wraparounds.
Yeah, I'll have to check the curriculum, but I'm fairly sure that it is compulsory in primary school, and that it starts off focusing about kind of personal hygiene and well-being. And yeah, then it becomes more developed as you grow up with school, doesn't it? Obviously appropriate to your age group. So from that starting point, I just kind of wondered, do you think that most young people have a fairly good understanding of sexual health? And I'm talking about, any young person. Obviously the age of consent is 16, but these conversations happen before and after that age. And I think it's really important to stress that it's important for all young people to be well informed, because different people develop at different ages. I wondered whether you think there's a generally good understanding of sexual health or not amongst you and your peers.
I think there's a good basic understanding. I don't think I would necessarily say that good understanding, at least in my case amongst my peers, has necessarily come from school though. I think these days there's a lot of online and third-party resources out there that give better information, because at least from my memory, the way that it was talked about in school was like we were talking about sex, but it was still a taboo topic in a sense. So we were talking about it, but we were dancing around all of these different terms and things, and you weren't really getting the information that you needed, because the whole time you were trying to decode what it is you were talking about, or you were giggling amongst your friends because that was the culture and the age you were at the time. So I think there's resources and ways out there to have a good understanding. I would say that quite a few people do, but I don't think that you're getting that understanding necessarily from schools, where you should just be able to access that support in school of which you go through as you grow up and not have to try and source it yourself.
Yeah, I think I'll just go along with what Beth said, that I do believe among young people there is somewhat of a basic understanding of what sexual health is. But as she's already put it, yeah, it still kind of feels like with almost everything, it's kind of like hush-hush. Because I remember what I was taught at like school, I'm like, okay, there's this and there's that. But I remember like there was like other things about sexual health that I found out that I was just thinking, why was I never taught this? Why am I only just finding this out? So it is taught, but not taught enough to give young people like a better understanding, like what's going on with their bodies and like how to treat their sexual health better.
I think as well, like I had a very outspoken teacher for PD, so I think I got a lot more than the curriculum had put in. But what I did notice is that it was kind of sometimes taught wrong. We weren't really taught about the difference between the vagina and the vulva, which I think is it's just something that already needs to be spoken about because it's part of your body. You need to know the difference between the two. And even just kind of tiny things like that really start to add up and can cause, although you may have experienced the curriculum, whether or not you come out with a decent knowing of it is a different thing. And also, we were kind of just taught, ooh, this is an STI, or ooh, and just, we never actually taught how to properly prevent it or have a chat with, say, your doctor or your GP about those type of things. So I think a lot of people, if they did end up, suffering from something like that, wouldn't really know what to do or how to approach it.
We're going to take a quick break right now, but we'll be carrying on our conversation about sex ed in schools right after this.
Work. You see me happy work. You see me do me dirt. So me better work. When you walk a line. I'm in the cafe, my drive me a dessert. No time to have you lurking. You make a like, now you don't like it. You know I dealt with you the nicest. Nobody touched me in the righteous. Nobody text me in a crisis. I believed all of your dreams are duration. You took my heart, all my keys, and my patience. You took my heart, I must leave a decoration. You mistaken my love, I brought for you for foundation. All that I wanted from you was to give me something that I never had, something that you never seen, something that you never been. But I wake up and nothing's wrong. Just get ready for work. You see me happy work. You see me do me dirt. So me better work. When you walk out, before the table turn. Beg you something, please. Baby, don't you leave. Don't leave me stuck here in the streets. If I get another chance to, I will never neglect you. I mean, who am I to hold your best against you? I just hope that it gets to you. I hope that you see this through. I hope that you see this true. What can I say? Please recognize I'm trying, baby. I feel why. It's me, I feel why. You see me do my da. So me better why. When you walk la. When the cat from my ta.
Yeah, okay. You need to get done at work, come over. We just need to slow the motion. Don't get out of the way to no one. Long distance, I need you. When I see potential, I just gotta see it through. If you had a twin, I would still choose you. I don't wanna rush into it if it's too soon, but I know you need to get done if you come on. Sorry if I'm way less friendly. I got trying to end me. Oh, yeah. I spilled all my emotions tonight, I'm sorry. Rolling. How many more shots until you're rolling? We just need a face to face. You could pick the time and the place. You'll spend some time away. Now you need to forward and give me all the work.
It's me, I feel work. You see me do my da. So me better work. When you walk out, la. When the cat from my dirt. Work.
You're listening to Gloucester FM with the Future Me Gloucestershire team. We're back now with our conversation about sex education and how it is taught in schools, and those areas which could be better taught. It's great that it's taught in schools and that it's taught universally. I don't think it's been the case for that long. There's probably certain aspects that could be taught better than others, both around sex but also relationships, I think. So I wondered if we could talk about that a little bit, just about whether there's any aspects of sex and relationships you think could be better covered or that young people should have a better education about.
One of the main things, and yes, it's touched on and talked about, but I think it should be brought back to every time, is just the concept of consent itself. I know we had kind of sex education classes in year 5 and 6 where we were more so kind of learning about like our bodies and how they change rather than sex and sex health itself. But I think this idea of consent needs to be installed at those young ages, because sometimes it can be kind of even though it's a very simple thing, it can be kind of a tricky concept in a sense to get your head around, I imagine. And it's something that you need to kind of know and have ingrained in your life, not just towards sex, but literally everything in life, any interaction that you have with another human being in any way. So I think while it is mentioned, I think if it was talked about a lot sooner, I think that would make it so much better, because you need to know about it before you go on to learning about sex, rather than hearing it mentioned with sex whilst you're still trying to work out what that means and how it relates to that, and you're already thinking about loads of other stuff at that time in your life. So for me, that would be one of the main things.
I think boundaries comes with consent as well, knowing how to set your own boundaries, which is something that was never really taught. And I was kind of just taught, yes, and then you're all good to go. There's, it's not as, simple as that. Consent is very, very important, but, boundaries come with that, and people need to know how to say no, or I don't want this, or I don't want that, or even just to say stop. And to be able, especially if you're with a partner, to be able to kind of set out your boundaries beforehand is very important and not something that's spoken about.
I think I'd say in a sense too as well, the reason why those things can feel so weird and tricky to talk about is because they're not talked about from such a young age.
Yeah, exactly.
If they were mentioned when we were younger, it would be normalised and it would be easy to have this conversation. It wouldn't feel like a weird or awkward thing to bring up. And I think the awkwardness around it is why so many people don't talk about it, and why it's not mentioned beforehand, where it's something that's really, it really, really needs to be. It's a really, really important factor. And I think, like Olivia said, it really needs to be stressed.
When something doesn't get talking about, misinformation spreads, and that makes it arguably even worse.
Yeah, I think definitely, just to go off what you guys say, I think there's just definitely a lot more about sexual health that should be taught at a young age, because if I'm just going to put it very bluntly, they're going to find out a lot of these details eventually in the future. It's just the very least education can do is teach all of these things in a much more safer environment with a lot more better, clearer details. Like, yes, this is what sex is, but more importantly, here's stuff like consent, or how your body works with sexual health, or your body could work very differently, or just stuff like that. Just a lot more that can be just taught.
Yeah, and I think in a way, perhaps young people maybe are almost a bit less embarrassed than maybe parents and older people to talk about these things. But unfortunately, those are the people we look to give us good, solid information. And it's any other aspect of your life. Your parents probably want to be pretty involved in giving you advice and good tips and things, but this is a topic that is no-go zone. Your parents don't want to talk to you about it. You don't want to hear about it from them either. And maybe that's where the role of schools needs to come in, because it's kind of a similar figure to a parent, but it's neutral. They can see it from a much wider point of view. But you're absolutely right, Morgan. I think if we don't get good information that isn't hampered by any kind of embarrassment or taboo, if we don't get that, people get it from other sources that aren't trustworthy, that are toxic perhaps, such as pornography. So I think it's so important to open up that dialogue So thanks to you guys for dipping your toe into that topic with me a little bit. I'm really kind of pleased that we did, because this show is an important one. It's really good to hear from you guys what you think about it, and where you think it could be better.
Young People Show on GFM 96.6.
Let me hold in my arms forevermore. It's cold nights, park is ours. Standing by the side, let you go on to the sea, just for me. Don't ever let me mind. Keep holding on, let them waters go. As my mind goes to and fro, waking up for one more show. We see him in the night. Tell him I'm not afraid of him. I'm not afraid of him, 'cause I won't know.
So thanks again to Beth and to Morgan and Olivia for tuning in and for speaking to me with that one about sexual health. I really hope you enjoyed listening to the show. I just wanted to signpost to some helpful and healthy resources on the topic, one of which is a charity called Brook. They're a national charity that offer great information on their website, so you can go to brook.org.uk to find that. Or The Mix is also a really comprehensive online resource for under 25s, and their section on sex and relationships is brilliant. So do head to themix.org.uk to find really honest, quality and accessible information and advice on all sorts of topics, but in particular sex and relationships. So before we finish up for the show, I've just got some community readouts to share with you. So on Monday, the 25th of April, local Gloucester artist Ryder Shafiq will be presenting his exhibition, History, Her Story, Their Story, Our Story, at the Sabrina Centre in Berkeley, which is, the postcode is GL139FB, so down in Berkeley, and it's from 11 a.m. till 2 p.m. And this sounds amazing. You can see the exhibition and even get lunch provided, as well as transport. So there's nothing stopping you getting there to the venue. So if you'd like to attend that opening of this art exhibition, which sounds great, you can email bettertogetherteam@gloucestershire.police.uk. That's bettertogetherteam@gloucestershire.police.uk. And make sure you include your name, first and last name, and your email address, and any dietary requirements if you have them, and indicate if you would like transportation. So if you do require transport, you need to head to Barton Street Police Station for 9:45 a.m. on Monday the 25th of April, and it will be departing promptly at 10 a.m. So that sounds really brilliant. And yeah, do email that email address if you'd like to be involved. So just finally, before we finish up, I just wanted to say thank you so much for listening in. It's been absolutely brilliant being back on GFM. Do tune in next week when I'll be talking about mentoring and support plans. And if you tune in tomorrow at 6 p.m, Holly will have the Friday edition of the Community Link show with the latest film reviews and Mowbray charts, so don't miss that. So I'm just going to play you out to the news now with Nicki Minaj and Karol G.
¿Qué pasa contigo? Dímelo.
Ya no tiene excusa, hoy salió con su amiga, dice que pa' matar la tusa, que porque un hombre le pagó mal, está dura y abusa, se cansó de ser buena, ahora es ella quien los usa, que porque un hombre le pagó mal, ya no se le ve sentimental, dice que por otro más no llora, no, pero si le ponen la canción, le da una de ahora soy una chica mala. And now you kicking and screaming a big toddler. Don't try to get your friends to come holla. Holla, ayo, I used to lay low. I wasn't in the clubs, I was on my J.O. Until I realized you were epic fail. So don't tell your guys that I'm still a bayo. Cause it's a new day, I'm in a new place. Getting some new sitting on a new cause I know I'm the baddest you ever really met. You searching for a better and you ain't met it yet. Hey yo, tell him to back off. He wanna slack off. Ain't no more. You gotta it's me and Carol G. We let them rats talk. Don't run up on us cause they letting the max off.
Pero si le ponen la canción, le da una depresión tonta. Llorando lo comienza a llamar, pero la dejo en buzón. Será porque con otra está pidiendo que otra se puede amar. Un shot para la pena profunda y seguimos gastando la funda. Otro shot para la mente, pa' que el recuerdo no la atormente. Ya no le copia nada, su exa no vale nada. Sale para la disco y solo quiere perrear, pero se confunde cuando empieza a tomar. Ella se cura con rumba y el amor para la tumba. Todos los hombres le zumban, pero si le ponen la le da una depresión tonta. Llorando lo comienza a llamar. La dejo en sola, será porque con otra está. Se puede amar.
Serving the heart and soul of Gloucester. This is 96.6 GFM News.
At 7 with the BBC News, I'm Mark Summers. MPs have voted to open an investigation into whether the Prime Minister Boris Johnson misled the House of Commons over parties held at Downing Street during coronavirus lockdowns. It's after Mr Johnson was fined last week by police for breaking COVID laws. The PM, who's on an official visit to India, says he's apologised and has insisted other issues need attention.
What I don't want to do is in any way impede the House of Commons from any further scrutiny. And look, my view is if the opposition really want to focus on this, that's all they want to talk about, that's fine. But what I want to talk about is the stuff we're doing to take forward the UK.
That investigation will start after police investigations finish. A man's been found guilty of murdering the 6-year-old schoolboy Ricky Neve in Peterborough more than 27 years ago. James Watson, who's now 41 but was 13 at the time, was charged after DNA evidence was re-examined. He's one of Ricky's younger sisters, Rochelle Neve.
He was so loving and caring, and I'm just so gutted that he's gone, you know, because I just imagine now I look and I think, what would it be like now? You know what I mean? What would we all be doing now together? Because we would be together, you know.
Ukraine has rejected a claim by Russia's President Vladimir Putin that his troops have taken control of Mariupol. It's after Mr. Putin cancelled plans to attack a large steelworks there. The mayor of the port city has insisted it remains Ukrainian. A charity's claimed that seals were pelted with stones, grabbed by their flippers and chased by dogs in a spate of attacks on English beaches over Easter. The British Divers Marine Life Rescue says there were an unprecedented number of cases reported in Yorkshire, Kent, Essex and Northumberland, asking witnesses to call the police. An amputee from Kidderminster who turned his life around after competing in the world's strongest disabled man contest is hoping to inspire young men who feel they're lacking direction. Chris Wolfe made the tough decision to have his left leg amputated after suffering complications following a motorbike crash in Thailand 7 years ago. After getting into trouble during his teenage years before moving on to compete internationally, he's hoping his story makes a difference.
Well, in a lot of ways saved my life. You know, when I was at my lowest, I'd lost my leg, I was doldrums, and then I found Strongman, and it really has improved everything.
And finally, gun salutes have been fired in Green Park in London to mark the Queen's 96th birthday. Meanwhile, Her Majesty celebrated at Sandringham in Norfolk and has received well wishes from political leaders and fellow royals, including the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, who called the Queen an inspiration to so many across the UK, the Commonwealth and the world. You're up to date, it's just coming up to 3 minutes past 7.
Gloucester's urban music. This is GFM.
Join us, the Future Me team, on Thursdays from 6 to 7 p.m.
right here on GFM 96.6
and online at gloucesterfm.com.
You're in tune to GFM.